There are some chairs over on the other side over. You're okay? All right. First thing I would ask is there any pecuniary interest or declaration from any of the council members? Seeing none, it can be declared if it does arise at any time. I do have regrets this morning from the Deputy Mayor. He is still on his search for the leprechaun, him and his wife in Ireland. John's on vacation, so I believe that they're home tonight. But he's been away, have all kinds of tales coming from Irish Blarney when he gets home. Brings us, there is no closed session, Mark. Brings us down to the consent agenda. I have a motion moved by Don B. Marshall and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that items A1 to C1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as amended, and further that authorization be given for the actions to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. And I'm wondering, as amended, so we're going to amend it to take out the amended and say as printed. Okay. Mover and seconder all right with that? There was nothing amended, it was as printed.
At this point, anyway.
Any questions, comments on the consent? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Mark, I'd ask that you hand out the... There's a few from recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. Very good. There's no tenders. Planning Advisory Committee is there in the future meetings for the 9th. We've had a fair number of applications in on developments in and around West Grey. So that'll be a full meeting, Mark.
Not so much.
Not a big one. Very good. Communications from Mayor and Council. Is there any members of Council have any communications? Ms. Lawrence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Carol?
Just like to report that a retirement party, very successful, was held for Phil Mullen, who has retired as the manager at Saugeen Municipal Airport. It was put on by COPA branch and the commission. They presented him, it was kind of nice. Apparently Phil had mentioned and he would always like to go for a ride in one of the planes that do the aerobatics. So without his knowledge, they bought a pass for him. So he will be taking a ride when they're doing aerobatics. And also presented him with a lovely big picture of the airport that was taken during the COPA AGM in 2012. Just a reminder that the craft show will be held in Newstead this Saturday, the 7th, from 9:30 to 4 at the arena. And also, Mr. Mayor, I would like under new business to bring up the issue of Rockwood Terrace and the possible action that the county might be taking on that, please. I have had many calls. Unfortunately, people identify me with it. I was there when it happened, but I can't do anything about it now. But I think as a council, we need to make our voices heard, and you and John as our representatives at the county. So I'd like to bring that up if I could.
Good. Yes. Look forward to that discussion. I've had a number of calls myself as well too. Anything else? Mr. Thompson. Rob?
Yeah, just a reminder of the AGM for the West Grey Chamber of Commerce tonight at 5:30. Due to the fire in Newstead last week, we're have to move our location and we'll be at the Hanover Raceway, OLG, for tonight's dinner and meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Doug?
And I guess just a reminder that May 14th, West Grey is doing a clean sweep, and I think there's some other organizations doing some cleanup before that date, but on the 14th, if you want to get involved, then send your name into the office, and we'll make sure you're covered for the area that you're going to do, if you want to do roadside cleanup. So that's May 14th. And then I believe there's coffee and offered at Ayton after that by the firefighters are putting that on, I believe, looking after that. So that's May 14th.
Is the, for the firefighters putting it on, so it's at the fire hall, or
I
is
believe so.
in-
It's on the website.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure that it was at the fire hall. Carol?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I forgot to mention that fundraiser for the Ellenwood Community Center. The board will be hosting a barbecue at Grant's, which is sponsored by Grant's Independent in Hanover, and that's this Saturday.
Very good. I have been to a number of functions over the past couple of weeks, and two that come to mind. My apologies to Mr. Mullen for not being able to get to his retirement, but Joanne and I had already had tickets to the Durham Agricultural dinner here on Friday night as well too. It was very successful. Another good evening, good entertainment, and on May the 7th, as the saying goes, it never rains but it pours. I see there's a gentleman in the crowd. He's probably got a few tickets in his pocket. The Beckett family, I believe, are putting on a fundraising performance in Markdale Ainsley United Church, Mr. Black. So anybody in the crowd that is sitting and has the idea of hearing some good music and supporting a good cause, see Mr. Black. If you can't negotiate a deal with him, I think Eunice has some tickets at the counter as well, too. I figured you'd have them handy, John S. Okay, thank you very much. We are a little bit ahead of time, which is always a good thing. If there's nothing else from council as an update, then I would like to say we'll get on with delegations, and we do have 3 delegations this morning. Dale McKean. And Dale, now if you could, because of the recording and whatnot, the podium, the mic is there, so if you can, thank you very much for coming. And the top button there will activate the microphone. We'll be able to... No, you'll have to get, there's a word talk there on it.
Should be.
Just keep pushing.
Right corner. Top right corner.
Right on the front of it. Talk. No, you're not.
It may not say talk.
Does it not say talk? Oh! It just, you're on and off.
Oh, okay.
When you got the red light, now yeah.
Okay.
The red light means go. I know,
Okay.
it's political. Welcome this morning, Dale.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Thanks for hearing me this morning. My wife, myself, Mary, we moved here to Durham August the 18th of 2013, and I was just wondering why the water and sewer, when we came here, it was approximately $109 at that time, and I see that according to our bill that it, as of January of this year, it went up to $130 and change, and now it's at another increase of $152. So that, I was just wondering why there's such large increases when I was here last year and talked to one of the gentlemen in your office, and they said that because of infrastructure and building different things, that's why there was an increase for the $130. So I was just wondering, I haven't seen any great improvements that, you know, for that, you know, I can see that you need more money, but that just seems like a lot of money for the little bit we're getting. And also I talked to my neighbor, Peter Foyette. He said that he helped install your new pump system on Highway 6 out here because the water pressure at our place seems so poor. And I understand from another neighbor that used to live here in 2010 that he said that he addressed or talked to you about it, and there was supposed to be going to be something done about it. He said there's supposed to be like 60 pounds pressure, I guess, at the road to all these houses, which I don't think we're getting that. So I was just wondering if there's something could be done, or you could just address that. Thank you.
Well, I'll start with the pressure. From my recollection, that would have been Kerry, or Larry wasn't here, would have been in 2000 and 2011, 2012, when we put in the booster pump for the upper part of town. And you're quite correct, at that point in time there was no. That would have been the first that I've heard of pressure problems since then. Quite frankly, on this side of town and down in and around the hospital, we had to put on a restrictor because we had too much pressure. But the last that I had seen from the engineers, the pressure was fairly stable and even across. Now, I'm not sure where you're meaning on Highway 6.
Is it just not north of here that they put some pumps or a pump out there? I understand from Peter, he said that he helped install that.
It would have been at the, right at the water tower, the reservoirs is what it was, but that was, yeah, up on Highway 6 and out on East Durham Road, and for geographical in and around the Catholic school. Those have issues, as far as I know, have been resolved, and that's where those pumps have completed. Now, the developer had put in a fair chunk of that to substantiate for some of the development on the East Durham Road as well, too. On your issue of the cost and the upgrades, we know that there's certainly a number of upgrades and that are needed on Garifraxa from the bridge south. We've had a number of water breaks. The lines are old, deteriorating. There's no safety issues as of yet, but we're trying to build up in the last little increase, and I would say little, was to try and build up a reserve that going forward, when we can access some provincial grant money that we were turned down last month on the Main Street from George Street down to Saddler. We had looked at that on the connecting link and we turned down on that funding. But it hasn't phased us from continuing to look for provincial money to upgrade that part of the system. So what we're doing right now is a slight increase in that to build up a reserve in anticipation of replacement of a number of water and sewer main lines. And as legislation says, we as a municipality cannot fund that. It's got to be self-funded. So it either is money that's borrowed and put on to the users, as it would in Durham or Newstead or any other municipal system out there, and paid back, or a little bit of it put into reserve and built up.
Well, I was just concerned, like I said, there seemed to be a lot of increases over a short period of time, seemed like a lot of money. You know, you can see that you do need a bit more each year, but that seems to be a lot of increases in a short period of time, so.
And we may have been, and as a council, because I'm not, Carrie is, and our engineers have told us that we probably weren't keeping up with it. I can't say that I apologize for you moving here, but you maybe moved just at the wrong time. The 8 years or 10 years previous, there had been very few increases, and we knew that we were falling behind. It was just a matter of trying to figure out where and when to make those increases happen. And that, I've done a few comparators when just after you had called and mentioned that, so around the area, and I think Mark has some of those numbers that Joyce had run off for him in comparison to where you would be to maybe what Mr. Turner has in the city of Owen Sound. So, Mark, you want
just
to
for
explain that?
your information, Mr. McKean, and for the audience's information, Carrie, our treasurer, did provide some background actually last year when we were looking at it, rate increases council was. So we can look at the quarterly billings for some of the comparator municipalities, surrounding municipalities, based on a minimum consumption of 12.5 cubic meters per month. So Hanover's roughly $137. Of course, Durham's now about $152. Saugeen Shores, $175. Newstedt's $195. Walkerton's $171. Markdale's $248. Dundalk's $250. Owen Sound is roughly $242. And Mount Forest is $305. As a ratepayer of Owen Sound, I just happened to get my most recent water bill, and I had Joyce do a comparator of the equivalent consumption that I had gone through in my residence compared to what it would have cost yourself if there was the same consumption. It ended up at your cost, a normal Durham ratepayer water user would have paid $170 for that quarterly billing. My bill was $275. So I think the Durham water rate is, fairly reasonable given some of the comparators, some of the surrounding municipalities. So I wanted councils to have this information available.
So are you hoping that the rate that it's at now, you're probably going to be able to hold it at that for a year or something other, or are we going to expect some more raises or increases yet?
Carrie, what do you think?
When they did the rate change, you decided to phase it in over a 2-year span. That's why
Yes.
we're seeing an increase last year and this year. And then council had advised that we would look at it and consider it a cost of living adjustment moving forward so that it didn't get so far outdated and require a big increase again. So that's the way we'll be addressing it. We'll be considering a cost of living, but that'll have to come to council for approval.
So we're hopeful that, as I said, we went for about 8 years or so holding the line, thinking that, and the thought process was that we could get some grant money from the province to help us out, but we were unsuccessful in a number of those. And the reason being, we didn't have enough money borrowed, apparently, or we were too financially astute to get those. They needed to put the money into municipalities that weren't as in good a financial shape. That being said, it came that we couldn't go on any longer without putting a slight increase and bringing it up to where it would be revenue neutral for us and be able to have some money in place going forward. Doug, Councillor Hutchison wants to make a comment.
Well, I'm just going to reiterate just what you said, that I think where this all came about was we wanted to make it revenue neutral, that in the past the water users weren't covering the cost of what it cost to produce or put the water out. So it's sort of a catch-up phase that we looked at, and that's why there's a huge increase at this point, which is unfortunate, but we needed to get it done. And as Mr. Turner said, it's still reasonable compared to other municipalities. It's just the means that we have to suffer through this increase that's happened at this time.
Okay. Just one last thing, if possible, if somebody from the town or something other possibly could come around. We just put some new sod down in our backyard, and the sprinkler that we have there, I mean, it's only spraying like about a foot or something other, so the pressure seems to be pretty poor to try and water some grass. So if somebody could have a look at it or something and say that, we're not getting the proper pressure or something, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. I'll put that forward and probably be one of our Durham Public Works guys. Make that mention to, I see Larry writing it down now, make that mention to Steve. It won't be today, it won't be tomorrow for Steve showing up. He's on a training course right now, I believe in Guelph, on water pressure, surprisingly. So we'll see when he gets back. You'll be the test on what he's learned.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dean. Okay. Thank you very much, Dean, and we will work with you to see if there's resolve to some of the issues. Well, he's sitting right there. Yeah, I might as well go with her. Dr. Lynn is with us. Very thankful to have Dr. Hazel Lynn, the Medical Officer of Health, for another 59 days. Dr. Lynn has made her announcement to retire, but dedicated as she is, she's not just going to be taking vacation and everything else and running it out. She is still very much involved at the health unit. And her and Sarah Ellis are here this morning just to basically give us an update on the programs that are there and the programs that the health unit are putting to make us a healthier community. And I'd just like to say, as the chair of the board, I'll put on another hat, it's certainly been a pleasure working with Dr. Lynn for a number of years, and a pleasure serving on the board and having you work so diligently for the health of not only West Grey, but Grey and Bruce counties, and more so your work at the province as well too, on a number of working groups you've done there. You have done us proud in Grey and Bruce, so thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Dr. Lynn.
Thank you for your kind remarks, and thank you for letting me come. I started this job in 2000 at the time of the Walkerton water outbreak and when the inquiry started. So it's kind of interesting that Mr. McKean was talking about water. When I started, and the reason I took the job is I'd been in family practice for about 20 years at that point and decided I wanted to actually prevent disease instead of treat it. When I started, we probably had 65, 70 boil water advisories all the time. The commonest call I got all the time, and there was probably 15 a day, were water calls. And so a huge amount of time and effort has gone into having safe water systems. We have no water advisories now, no boil waters. And it is rare to get a call. It's usually that there's a new operator who doesn't know quite what has gone wrong. So a huge amount of disease has been saved by having much safer water, which is basic. After I started, then I had to go back to school, to the university, and get a master's in public health, which I did, and finished in 2002. And then the first thing I wanted to do, of course, being gung-ho, was I wanted to prevent disease. The biggest cause of preventable disease in humans in our area is smoking cigarettes. So we started, the first time I did this roundabout to all 17 municipalities, I was trying to get them to sign on to a smoking bylaw for their county. And I don't even remember, but if West Grey supported it or not. However, Grey County was the first in the province to have a gold standard smoking bylaw. That was 2002, or just early 2003. So we beat the province by 3 years. And Bruce County came along with a silver-rated one, but so thank you very much. That was starting my fame, because there's all sorts of people who, how did you do that in Grey County? And thank you for those of you that supported it and have supported it in the future. Our smoking rates are down, our admission rates to hospital with chronic obstructive lung disease are down, and deaths from myocardial infarction are down. All of this is smoking related. We have a little ways to go, but it's been impressive. The other thing we've worked on is rabies, and when I started, there was rabid animals all summer long. We did a huge amount of protection for people. After the Minister of Natural Resources has been baiting, there has been 4 years now, and in Grey County we have not had a case of terrestrial rabies in any animal. We have had bat rabies. So well done, those of you that called them in, immunized your pets, and hopefully this outbreak that's happening down in Hamilton will be stopped before coon rabies comes back to us. There have been 2 cases of fox rabies in Perth County, south of us. So keep immunizing your animals, and we will be actually doing a banding of rabies baits again this year around Grey and Bruce counties because of that. So I'm on a provincial committee for that, and it's very interesting and very rewarding. Next one was alcohol, and we have worked hard with the municipalities that they will look at the alcohol abuse rates, which was my number 2 after smoking. It hasn't gone maybe quite as quickly, and the province is definitely not online with a alcohol policy for the province yet, although I am working on that too. But I think it speaks to everybody's interest in being healthy that all of our municipalities, all 17, have a alcohol policy. Some of them are better than others, but at least they've looked at the problem and they've actually got a policy for their own facilities. And West Grey's is actually a very good alcohol policy. Thank you very much for working on that. In the future, and our next strategic plan is basically that the health unit wants to work down at the ground level, at municipality level, because that's where health really starts. It's where you live, and how you live is what makes you healthy. And so that's why Sarah, who is your public health manager for this area, and health promoter Amber have come with me today. So in the new strategic plan, we'll be working with you to look at your priorities in health, and also try to put a few of ours in as far as good eating and healthy living. One of the things we will be encouraging to in this area in particularly is people to enroll in the Ontario Health Study. And that's probably, you've read that in the paper. A lot of people are wanting to look at the effect that the environmental exposure of wind turbines close to your home has. And I've done a fair bit of work on this a few years ago with another researcher on looking at the evidence in Europe and in the States. There wasn't much in Canada at that point. But even since then, there are changes in some people, not in everybody, if they're too close to a constant noise or whatever it is, infrasound. And we need to delineate that and eventually be able to prove it and make sure that we are safer. Did the same thing for cigarette smoke. It took 40 years to prove that smoking cigarettes was what was causing lung disease, heart disease, COPD, and so on. It's going to take many more years on wind turbines as well, because the environmental exposure is hard to delineate. So there will be some announcements coming up that if you would care to enroll with Ontario Health Study, which is a large Ontario-wide study, very well funded. It looks at all sorts of different things that might affect our health and will follow you safely, keeping your information secure, and also be able to then give the anonymized information to researchers down the way when we start to have enough evidence to take a look at this. So the announcement will be coming out. I don't think we have time set up yet. You can enroll the basic enrollment online, Ontario Health Study, and then they have agreed to come to the areas in both West Grey and Grey Highlands to enroll people with blood samples and some other tests that they do at that point. So hopefully that will help, and over the years, if we work together, we can all be healthier. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lynn. Would you be willing to take any questions? I always knowing you to do that. Sometimes you pose more questions than you answer, but any of the council members get any questions? Don? Councilor Marshall.
It just puzzles me when they want to get the smoking down and you see you standing on the corner smoking cigarettes. And we know that if you're under the age of 19, you cannot drink alcohol, buy alcohol. Why do they not bring in a law that prohibits the smoking of cigarettes under 19?
It's prohibited to sell cigarettes to anyone under 19. So there is part of that in there. I guess if you give cigarettes to a child, should you be punishing the child or the person that gave them to them or bought them for them? So there's a bit of a problem there. It is illegal for young people to smoke on school grounds, and we do some charging on that. Mostly we try to divert that charge into usually working for the health unit in one of our programs, which it's interesting how when kids are occupied and doing something, they don't smoke anymore. Our smoking rates overall for Grey and Bruce counties are significantly down in teens, which is good. We were about, between 25 and 30% when I started, and we're down well below 18%, which is below provincial average, actually. So although there's certain pockets of kids that are smoking, and we know that, we are working on that, and hopefully we can divert that attention into other things. The other thing that's going to be coming up in the next year is the decriminalization and regulation of marijuana smoking. Right now the kids get off the charges when they go to court because they say I was smoking marijuana, and our law only says tobacco, which is a problem. So hopefully this will all get settled out in the next year or so as we work on these things. But I absolutely agree, if we could really get the kids smoking rate down below 10% in particular, we could have a much healthier generation.
Okay, thanks, Don. Further, Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Just a question about the Ontario Health Study. So are you looking for individuals to sign up on through the internet, or is that something that needs to be done through our municipality?
No. If everyone signs up online, and then they will actually arrange a day to come and do everybody in the area, do the blood samples and the other tests that they do. It takes an hour or so, because they did have a office set up in Owen Sound for a while when they first started. And it is really thorough. They look at everything. It's very similar to the Framingham study, which was done in the States like 60 years ago, which identified a lot of the risks of heart disease. This, again, is going to look at cancer. It's going to look at other environmental exposures as well. Also, there's a whole section on mental health, which is a really significant loss of healthy years of life. In fact, it's the largest area of loss. And so we want to look at that. What is causing that in certain areas?
Councillor Lawrence. Karen?
Thank you. I noticed in the email from Sarah asking about somewhere in West Grey as a place to carry out this, and I'm wondering if we could offer our town hall or our arena, probably other than the municipal office. I don't think this would be the best place, but
Yeah, I think we had a contact there, and I've given those contact names to Ontario Health Studies. So when this is starting to ramp up, then the choice of the place would be where people can get to the easiest.
that was my thought. It might be. And I'd just like to reiterate Mayor Kevin's opening remarks to you. Having had the pleasure of serving on the board and serving, as a matter of fact, being there when you were hired,
Yep.
I just want to thank you for all the work you've done. You've done a tremendous job, and we were very, very lucky to get you. So, and enjoy your retirement.
And I was very lucky to get the job. Thank you.
Councillor Cutting. Bev?
Yes, thank you. I want to commend you on the outspoken speech, I guess, that you gave when you did the original study on wind turbines, and the fact that you stood up when nobody else in Ontario would stand up and say that, yes, you saw a correlation, not maybe necessarily that you could actually pinpoint on something, but thank you for that, because that was very brave of you.
Well, I almost, if I could have lost my job, I would have at that point.
Close. And we appreciate that very much for you standing up for the people. This new study, we all know that Ontario wants wind turbines. My concern with this study is that it's going to be extremely weighted on the provincial side, saying, see, there's no issues here, because that's what they're pushing. So when you're saying that the health study is going to be, blood tests, et cetera, how are they going to monitor people who now live with the effects of turbines in their backyard but have no previous records of health to say how this has affected them? And the second part of that question is how many people are going to be in the study, and how many people are they going to use that are actually affected by turbines, and is the correlation between the two, you've only got a small pocket still, even though there's huge, amounts of turbines, there's still only a small pocket of people affected. So if they take more people that aren't affected and the few people that are willing to do the study and are affected, how is that going to balance that overall results out, and are we just going to see another fluff survey?
No, that's why Ontario Health Study is much better system, because they want millions of people in it, and then they will choose down by postal code of where the people are. And so Wolf Island is the first one that really wanted to involve with that. That's island down by Kingston that is full of wind turbines. So although this area is starting a little bit later than some, it's better late than never. And what we need to prove a difference is you must have larger populations. To have a small population, it doesn't have enough statistical significance. And you're right, because not everyone who's exposed to that environmental event is going to have side effects. depend on how close you are. In the European studies, the closer you got, the more people who were affected. If you move the distance out to approximately over 2 kilometers away from the nearest turbine, there was very little. There were still some people, but very much less. I figure it probably about 450, 500, which is what Ontario has said is safe. There's probably about 10% of people that will feel distressed.
So,
But you need those large populations to be able to make any scientific, statistically significant conclusions.
so there have been a number of European studies that have been done exactly on this, and that's why the 550-meter setback is no longer in effect in a lot of Europe. It is now up to 2 kilometers, in some cases 5 kilometers.
Yep.
Why is Ontario so freaking stupid? That,
Don't ask me.
but
Believe
why
me, I
will-
almost lost my job over
Why will they not
this.
look at those studies, take those results, and then do their own study? I'm not saying, although I don't know what the results will be, but why are they, why will they not sort of, when we were discussing the setbacks with the MOE, et cetera, at the beginning of this whole course, they were claiming that Europe does this and all this. Well, Europe doesn't do this. And so that's my concern about this whole study, is that they won't even look at what Europe is doing that's had them for 40 years and what their results are of their studies. They just want to go ahead and do another study. So I have a real concern that this study is just going to end up.
This is not a specific wind turbine exposure study. This is a huge
okay.
population base.
Okay.
They're looking at cancer, they're looking at all sorts of stuff. And so that it's a much safer system than just looking at one item. And it's really hard to get a proper case-controlled system with wind turbines because you can't blind anybody. You know if you're exposed or not. So this is what it will take to be able to actually, with confidence, say this is the type of person that might be affected, and this is the effect we're seeing.
Okay. I was under the impression that it was a wind turbine study.
No, Ontario Health Study is huge. It's been underway for 5 years, and they're hoping to enroll about 3 to 4 million people. They're about half that now.
Okay.
And hopefully, and they were quite keen on this. They want to look at environment, and again, this is separate from the government. It's totally separate. So it's not government looking at it. And I think on the other question, Ontario has been determined to go zero emissions on energy, which I think is really a good ambition. I think the ability to ramp up one's hydropower and nuclear power should have been looked at before they added all sorts of wind turbines, because they're not very efficient, they're not very effective. It really doesn't contribute much to our energy at all, except for the distress of people in rural areas.
Right. Well, thank you very much, and I hope your successor has as brave a heart as you have. And you need to train them well, so I would suggest you stay on for a year just in training capacity.
What do you think, Kevin?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll check the budget to see where we are on the consulting line.
No increase, remember?
Yes, the province has given Grey Bruce no increase, so that's why I don't want to venture on that one. And as just to reiterate from Dr. Lynn, this is a long-term study. I don't want the public out there to get the idea that, we're going to do this and in 6 months we'll have some finite information on wind turbines. I think Dr.
Doesn't do anything in 6 months.
That's why this study is not being done by the government. But as Dr. Lynn said, it took us almost 40 years to get from the point in the 1950s from doctors promoting, which brand of cigarette they preferred, to doctors saying, don't smoke, it's going to hurt you. And in that, I'm saying this study will be long-term, but it will have long-lasting effects on health policies throughout and environmental policies throughout Ontario. But it's not going to be something that we'll see, a finite, definite solution on the problem for the 10 to 20%, whatever the percentage of people that are affected by wind turbines, affected by, our coal generation, many other environmental effects out there that we have.
When I talked to the folks at Ontario Health Study, the average life of a turbine is about 15 years, and I would hope by 15 years there will be enough evidence to say we're not going to redo this, or we need to pay people out who have been damaged. That's what my hope would be.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Lynn? Mr. Thompson?
Just
you
one
got
quick
more?
one to take it away from the wind turbines for a minute. Neonicotinoids, I'm probably not pronouncing it properly, but is the health unit involved in that study at all, or affecting the bees?
We did do a fair bit of stuff early on pesticide, cosmetic pesticide use, but that hasn't been one of our directions. I'm certainly interested in it, but no, it's not one of our...
I was just reading this past weekend where they've found traces of that in the wild turkey population in the livers. And I'm wondering what that is doing to domestic birds or animals, and you know, people do consume that, and what effect it would have on the humans. And I'm just wondering, is the biologist from the Ministry of Natural Resources consulting with the health units and presenting that? Because it was in the Ontario Out of Doors magazine that I was reading this weekend, and they have
Well, it is a
traces.
real concern for me, because bees are essential to a rural area.
Yeah, and obviously the turkeys are eating those soybeans and grains, and being absorbed into the liver now. That's what they've claimed. So just wonder how far, or if you're aware of any of that.
Not, again, mostly we deal with human stuff, so
Right. The humans consume it. I don't know what the effect would be long range.
it's not good for you.
If I could just offer, Carol, and I'm trying to think the exact date, March 19th was the farmers meet politicians in Elmwood, and there was a presentation at that. The University of Guelph, a young individual has just finished her master's on neonics and the absorption through the bees. And the conclusion that she came up with was it's not there in the bees. There is not enough uptake to even get close to the concerned bar. So University of Guelph has said it's not neonics that is doing it. She also mentioned it, and it was there, about the turkeys, and it's not the seed from the plant that it is. It's the turkeys eating the seed that's being put into the ground, the germinating seed. So it's the neonic that's going on to the seed, not the seed that's coming out of the pod from there and from the corn. It's not off the cob. It's what the turkeys are rooting out of the ground that the farmers are planting. That's where they believe that it's coming from anyways on their studies. So just that information is out there. But it certainly is, it's showing up in the turkeys, there's no question, but not from the plant itself. Okay? Again, thank you very much, Dr. Lynn. We'll see you at the next board meeting in May. See you at the next board meeting in June. And then see you on Expedia.com when you're on your retirement. Again, thank you, and we'll be talking more. We do, and just as Bev had said, staying on for another year, I can update the community out there that the board has gone through a selection process, and there will be an announcement. We hope May 20th is the next board meeting, 22nd. Boy, as board chair, I should know that. Anyways, the Friday coming up in May, we'll be making an announcement of Dr. Lynn's successor. So look forward to that, and very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Lynn, Sarah, and Amber, for riding shotgun today with the boss. And the other thing is with the health study, I don't know whether it come from Sarah or Amber, request for a facility. So we're working on that. You suggested one day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for people to be able to come in and register sometime in June, if my memory serves right, Mark. So we'll work with you on trying to find, and I think council would be keen on finding a spot to be able to have people come in and register and get into the study. So, very good. Thank you. Okay. Our third delegation, well, look at that. We're right on time now, Mark, for this one. Jackie Robertson. Jackie wanted to come and give us a update or an ideas on community enhancement. And Jackie, the winds are blowing out the door right now, I guess. Anyways, Ms. Robertson, the floor is yours. Welcome this morning.
Sorry, Kevin, but I can't hear you at all.
Oh.
For the rest of the council, I wear a cochlear implant, and the electronics in it does not like other electronics at all. So I don't hear the radio or any of that. So if there's anything further after I do my little one-pager here that any of you would like to discuss with me personally, one-to-one, Mark Turner has my email. That's how I communicate. So I appreciate talking to each of you, in fact, because I have one extra idea to spread to one person. In other words, I have many ideas, but I'm the only one representing myself here. So whether I can effect any change will be a whole lot of interest. So here I go. After seeing the report on Global Evening News about what one family experienced when the snow on their newly purchased farm melted last month, its effects for the 3 kids in this family have concerned me. No doubt each of you has heard of this nightmare, and in my view, young children should always come first in terms of government policy, particularly that at the municipal level. A few residents use your website to follow your meetings, but most of us do not do so because of telecom costs here that I have read about. Some of us nip through the Sun-Times at the library, but for me, that only happens with my weekly visit to this exceptional, useful library. Therefore, Therefore, a first request to your councillors is to have more communication, which would be especially useful to newcomers, perhaps in the progress with its goal of promoting local business. No doubt its editor would be delighted with your own comments about any subject that would be of interest around decisions taken at meetings, or your own reasons for how you voted or brought focus and point of view to the table. Knowing what happens at council would go a long way to promoting your care for what happens locally. Darn, I can barely talk. Read the Weingard Development Initiative report, a copy of which I recently read at the library. I was delighted to see it in it, how he emphasized the environmental concerns that are important for companies thinking of setting up shop here. New families or businesses these days don't choose places where they or their workers might have to gamble on the quality of the water in the wells, and also prospective new residents might look for how municipal money is spent on maintaining hiking, skating, where are we? They might look for how municipal money is spent on maintaining these things. Weingard's proposed policies support great concern that for a family-friendly environment with safe water source awareness appears through the 22-page report he recently tabled with you. Next idea is a welcome wagon. This one suggested to me by a friend. This welcome could include one of you with a farming community focus all of you have, perhaps a membership even in a farm animal care council. It'd be interesting if one of you or all of you knew that council, but it relates to what I'm talking about for sure. One of you could pay a visit to offer any relevant information and services to new residents that they might want to discuss individually. This welcome package of info that you bring to a family about managing the septic system, the rules and costs for garbage and recycling, not to mention the sad fact that there's no composting pickup in this community at all. They might also mention that toxic waste is collected once a year, but not at the dump. Also, snow plowing expectation. There are people that are perhaps a little urban in their outlook, and they don't know about how plowing is done on rural roads. Very interesting point for some of them. They need to know about the burning rules, about just giving them some county maps and going over a few county services that are provided here. And of course, and certainly not least, what the services are for children in the local library. Last point, which is my biggie, as some of you already know, from my own experience as a newcomer here, more than a decade, let's put it that way, ago. My question is, sorry I can't talk very well. Besides not being able to hear, I can't breathe very well either. I have COPD. What about animal services here of the sort that kids could be very happy with if a stray cat presents it at the door or one of their own pets decides to do some community exploring? I have a really forward thinking about this, but I need to expand on it more than I want to take any time, because I've already taken all my time, haven't I, Kevin? So please get in touch with me.
You still got 5 minutes.
Or any further questions about what that family went through when the snow melted. I'd be happy to talk about one-on-one, but I have never met the family, don't know their name, nor exactly the location where they are located in this municipality. So this is entirely of my own concern. I could not believe it. And to think what Mr. Weingard would now say if he knew this went possibly countrywide about West Grey. So there I am. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Now you've got me confused whether I should use this or not. Thank you very much, Jackie, for the presentation. And we will be in touch. All right. Does council want to take just a quick little break? And then we'll get on to the business. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. That's it for delegations. Any business arising from the previous meeting? No? Larry, at this time, is there any new faces you want to introduce?
Oh, can't think of any. No. Your Worship, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our new Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, Mr. Brent Glazier. He started this morning, so we thought it'd be great if he could get before council and do an impromptu report on the status of the infrastructure in West Grey. But I don't think we'll wait till next meeting for that. So it's with pleasure I welcome Brent Glazier to my team and our team here in West Grey.
Brent, congratulations on becoming part of the West Grey team. And if you could come forward, I've got something pretty important. Now, this is, it's shiny, but it doesn't have any stones in it. You've got to wait for a few years, and Kerry will give you that before we find one that has a stone in it. So I'd just like to present you with the West Grey pin. Sir, that way you can get what that stuck is there, but that's all the nature. Oh, he's a quick learner. Thank you. Is there anything you want to say? Turn the mic on for him, Kerry. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll teach him that.
Actually, I'm very humbled to be in front of council this morning. I've been looking forward to this opportunity for, I think it's been about 5 weeks since I was first given the opportunity of given the job. And last 2 weeks I've been able to really, I'm going to say the last 2 weeks have been very, very good in the sense that I've been able to look forward to this day. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. The process of getting this position was very daring. Took some time and played a heavy role on my mind. But anyways, I'm here. I'm very happy to be here, and I know I can move this municipality forward in developing strategy and plans to improve the infrastructure, looking at saving money for the ratepayers of this community, and bringing leadership to my team, and looking forward to working with CEO Larry and the rest of the employees of this great municipality. So I want to thank Larry for the kind meeting this morning. It was great to get together, and I'm quite sure we're going to be sharing a lot of story time over the next, not stories, but work-related issues. You're probably going to get tired of seeing my face over the next, Kerry and Larry, over the next few days as I get myself organized within the office. So once again, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And welcome, sir. Just for the residents out there that will be watching in, Brent brings 27 years of expertise and experience from Bruce County, where he served, can I say, second in command, manager behind the director there in Bruce County, Brian Knox, for a number of years. So we're very happy, very pleased that you accepted the offer to come here and work with us. Now, most of the time, the Public Works Director sits over on this side. We don't like them getting too close to the Treasurer, Finance Director, and taking so much capital funding. But today, we'll let it go, and then we'll figure out the seating arrangements later for you, Brent. Anyways, congratulations and welcome to West Grey. We look forward to your experience and thoughts and developing the policies that will move us forward. Great. Glad you could be here. Down to staff reports. Kerry, Director of Finance and Treasurer. And Kerry's first report, of course, is the vouchers. And we've had them before. Is there any questions or comments on the vouchers as they were presented? Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, just on page 65, I'm just wondering on the charges for the pound, are we reimbursed on those, Carrie? There's a number of charges there from the pound. I believe we use it, and then is it not the understanding that the person who had the dog put into the pound would get reimbursed us?
I think if Mark can probably get on that
If
one.
the owner of the dog is known, yes, they will be,
Right.
we will be compensated. If the owner is not known, then we obviously would foot the bill.
Okay, all right. So if it shows up there, then it's probably that we didn't find the owner and we cover the cost if it shows up in our statement.
They would invoice us regardless, and then they would come into the
Okay,
office and
then
pay,
invoice.
whether it's a fine, or then if they don't have a dog tag, they'd also get a dog tag, but they would pay a fine if it was dog running a large, or payback for the pound services themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have some others. If you
Yep,
want to
no.
go ahead.
Continue on, go ahead.
Okay, page 66, there was a note about gentleman Fred Newman, sidewalk salting in Ayton. I presume he's under contract with us. Is that how that come about? Something similar to their Newstead setup?
Yes, I believe so. I can confirm that for sure with Tim, but I believe it's a contract that we have for the individual to do that for us on the sidewalks there. So it's done in a timely fashion.
Okay. And also on page 66, that was on page 66, there's a replacement of Western Red Cedar mailbox stand for $488. I presume it seems like a lot of money for a mailbox, but I presume that was taken off with one of our plows or something. I'm not sure what that's all about, but
Yeah, that one,
Pine Ridge timber frame, I guess, did the work on it or something.
yeah, it was very similar to what the house is. They kind of made it out. It's not our, general practice, but that one there's been issues with a couple of times, so can authorize that. There usually is a set limit of what we have on mailboxes, but this one was the whole stand and whatnot, so we replaced it.
Yeah, okay.
And that was down in Ayton as well, too.
And one final one, page 72, there's a mention of a Newstead promotional sign for $150. I'm just wondering what that sign is, a promotional sign
That's
in
one
Newstead.
of the Province of Ontario signs, the tourism signs that is down there. We pay that every year. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one down just north of Greenbush. The John Diefenbaker sign, Greenbush, the gas, just north of Harrison, between Harrison and Clifford.
Okay.
There's, and that's the old Todd's fee, I guess you could say, on that billboard there. It's a 4x8 billboard on Highway 9.
So we pay the ministry for that sign?
Yes, yeah, it's on a provincial highway. It's on Highway 9.
Okay.
So that's been a long-standing one. That was one that, well, certainly come forward from Newstead days. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Don? Councilor Marshall.
And just getting back to that mailbox replacement. Our policy, I believe, reads that we will replace a mailbox that's been damaged by snow plows if the plow blade actually hits the snow plow box with a steel or a $20 mailbox. This is a $500 mailbox?
From my understanding, it wasn't so much about the mailbox was probably a $20 mailbox, but it was the stand that it was on. As I said, the building, the house was a red cedar, and they did the mailbox kind of with the same type of material, so the post was in and an arch and whatnot on the mailbox. It wasn't the mailbox that got hit, it was the whole arch itself that got knocked off, and I believe in a snowstorm.
And this whole outfit's on municipal property.
Yes, I think that was determined, yeah.
It's going back on municipal property. We're going to allow that.
That's where most mailboxes are, in accordance with the Canada Post requirements, yes. They have access.
I think we better review the policy of some description here. or the policy might need some reviewing.
I think a bit of updating. The new Director of Public Works has a pen in his hand. Hopefully he's already got it to paper as one of those things to do. Noted. Okay. Thanks, Brent. All right. Anything else on the vouchers before I introduce the motion? I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 8, 2016 of the Municipality of West Grey in the amount of $680,238.89. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one, Carrie, is the, if I'm not mistaken, is the Real Term Energy LED investment grade audit. Any further on that from the discussion at Committee of the Whole?
No, we've, between Larry and myself, we've contacted several local municipalities, and they've the ones that you've used it, some are mid, Greyhounds is still in the middle of doing their project, but no one seems to have any issues. Chatsworth is completed and have realized greater savings than originally estimated. Hanover, there was a couple that were missed, but they have to come back and do the decorative ones, but that's sort of just working with the contractor, especially if there's multiple communities, that the communication and making sure that all the fixtures are addressed, but no one seemed to have any issues. The ones with Westario, Hanover is still waiting, as indicated. They're working with Westario to get that. Michelle gave us Kincardine and Minto. They also deal with Westario, and those ones have seen, it took a bit, but they have seen those savings. It's just working with that local distributor on getting those done, but they've been able to achieve those as well.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Carol, comment? Yes. I'll introduce and then we can go. So I have a motion moved by Don B. Marshall and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the proposal from Real Term Energy for LED streetlight project with internal financing from the General Capital Reserve with payback from the annual streetlight utility savings. Carol.
Thank you. I have some questions around the decorative lighting. And I understand, yes, our square ones that are very old, the few that we have in our parks are necessary, but I'm questioning why the decorative lights in Marshall Heights would be replaced. I think they said the decorative lights are 4 times the cost of the standard one. Why would we not just be covering the cost of the standard one, and if the developer down there wants them replaced with decorative, that he would pay the difference? I don't feel that taxpayers should have to pay that. And the other one was on Marvin McDonald's Crescent, which I don't believe we've ever taken that over. That's decorative and it's private property. So I'm wondering if we can look at that, and if the agreement can be amended. I just don't think that we should cover decorative lighting. And the ones at Marshall Heights, I think, what are they, 2 years old, 3 years old? So that's something I am concerned about. The other thing, I wondered about Elmwood. Like the lights that we're changing and the ones we're taking off, are we going to try and sell them? I mean, that's kind of all tied into the sale of the hydro over there to Westario. I wondered if we were going to try and sell them and put that money back into that reserve that we have.
The reserve fund there?
Yes.
I'm not sure what... can somebody remind me what the idea was with the lights that were being replaced? Did Steve have an idea? Seems to me that he did have an idea what he wanted to do with them, but now you've got me. I can't say that I actually know what is happening to the replacement. Now, a number of them, and I think we would certainly have to go through because a number of them are at really about the end of their life. That's what kind of initiated this, was that a number of these lights needed to be replaced, upgraded anyway, so when you started the LED, but some of them that are functional, good question, is there a salvage value to them or not? And without Steve here, I'm not sure what his...
Well, it's something I'd like followed up. I mean, it's a little bit different scenario over there because of that sale of their hydro, and, well, Durham's too, as far as that goes.
Durham's
Yeah.
would be in that as well, too.
Durham's in that as well, yeah.
Newstead had the same thing. Theirs went in,
Yeah.
and I mean, that fund went into the new hall, but it was the same thing,
Yeah. But I do have concerns about this decorative lighting.
lighting.
And I would like to hear some discussion on it. As I said, I can see us replacing it with standard, but if somebody wants decorative on top of that, it shouldn't be my cost or your cost or anybody else's.
Any other thoughts on that, Doug?
Yeah, I just, like, I'm in favor of this, but I would hope that they would come forward and that we have a chance to have some input. We look at where they're replacing the lights, and are there any additional, are we going to take some off? I know we talked about the concern, the issues with the walkway bridge and the lighting there, which just wasn't going to be part of it, but maybe it needs to be part of it if we're going to replace those. So I think there's a lot of details that we have to work out before we go ahead and do this. So I'm hoping that there'll be a chance for input and before we go ahead with it. But obviously, I think the savings are there for us to proceed.
I just want to make it clear, I'm not against that. I just want these questions answered before we sign a contract with them or we amend it or something.
Okay, Don?
I believe that we've already taken over the Section 1 and 2 of the Marshall Heights subdivision, so I think we're on the hook for them decorative lighting there. But we can replace them with standard, but I don't think we can go back to the developer to replace them because we've already taken over that first 2 stages. But they're going to very shortly start phase 3 and 4 of that subdivision, and I think at that time we can get them to put in the standard lighting, because there's going to be decorative lighting going down that whole strip which
That
we
was in
will
the
be on
site plan.
we will be on the hook for forever.
Mark?
Yes, I was going to say we can check the subdivision agreement for the Marshall Heights subdivision. I believe only phase 1 has been assumed at this point, and I would think the works, which would include the road, would also, excuse me, would also include the street lights, but we'll check that and get back to council.
Okay. We fair with that, Carol, that we can work, and I think that is what I got from Michelle Horget that was here. It's not binding that this is absolutely, they'll work with us, and I think that's what Kerry got and Larry from conversations back and forth, that, yeah.
So what are you looking for today then from this? I hope we're not approving the contract with them.
We're approving the proposal. That's the way the motion reads at this point in
Well, the
time.
proposal includes those decorative lights and everything else. I would move that we table this until we have more information.
Okay. Councillor Lawrence moves to table. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Rob. That move to table. And giving staff the direction to negotiate on the decorative lighting and...
To bring us back the information as far as the Marshall Heights subdivision agreement too.
Yeah.
And look into the Marvin's, because I don't think we've taken that over yet.
I don't believe we have either.
So
No, it
that's
hasn't
private.
sold out quite yet.
Yeah.
You have anything else, Rob?
What about Elmwood? Do you want to find out a little more on that?
I guess just on the disposition of the lights that they're taking out all over. What I assume they come back to us and we maybe could sell them, but I don't know.
That was, I think that was my assumption too.
Yeah,
then.
nice to know.
Let's get
though.
away from assuming and get the actual.
Yeah.
Okay? Good? No, haven't voted on that. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Lawrence, second by Councillor Thompson. Be it resolved that the Municipality of West Grey hereby tables Resolution 172-16. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. We'll have that back before us. Still think that allows us time to get that in. Playground equipment updates for the Normanby Centennial Hall. Any further comments on this one, Rob or Carrie or Carol? Sorry. Yeah. Too many recreation committees. Durham, Normanby, Newstead. Thanks.
There were 3 RFPs received, and the Ayton Recreation Advisory Committee went over them very carefully, had a lot of discussion Thursday night, and it's their recommendation that it be the playground equipment from Power Play, I think it is, Carrie, or yeah, Play Power LT be purchased. The pieces it's based on the playability, I guess you'd call it, of the ones that were proposed. And one of the ones, the swings that they proposed, we didn't think was just on a T-bar with a thing across here. It wouldn't take a lot of hard, not playing, but whatever you want to call that. So based on that whole thing and the fact it's coming from fundraising, they would recommend that that be purchased as soon as possible because they want to have it in before homecoming. There is a 10-foot gate being installed in the fence that's around the playground equipment. And of course, as you know, the surface is being changed from the sand to the pea gravel. So, yeah.
Okay. I have the motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the quotation from Play Power LT Canada Inc. in the amount of $14,999.26 plus HST for the supply and installation of a play structure and bumblebee spring toy at the Normanby Centennial Hall as recommended by the Normanby Recreation Advisory Committee, and further that the project be funded from the Normanby Recreation Fundraising Reserve. Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Very good. That timed out. Nope. Okay. Carrie, the next one is the council remuneration. Is there for information? Posted. Any questions for Carrie? Getting off pretty lucky today. Any comments, Carrie? At the start of the month, always? Very good. Excellent. Okay. You can see a couple of people now moving those out of their desk. Yeah, Mr. Bell, we're not sure. We'll try and get a hold of him before tomorrow. Okay. All right. Thank you, Carrie. Next one is clerks. What page are you on there, Mark? 79, 80. I was going to say 80, I think maybe 80. 45, that's still on the consent. The first one, Mark, is on the Municipality of South Dundas. To reconsider the suspension of the RED program. Any further updates or comments other than what
I guess
we got?
basically South Dundas is concerned that by integrating the Rural Economic Development Program into the Jobs and Prosperity Fund, that it might impact on future funding for rural-based programs. So that's their concern with this integration.
The idea of, yeah, being our own rural would get lost in the overall jobs. And so we have any council thought on that, of keeping it separate? Or Mark does have the resolution there, is to asking for support for South Dundas to keep the RED program as a standalone program. Does somebody want to move that? Yep, see a couple of hands that way. So, and any comments, Doug?
Yeah, just, I think what I've read from it, I'm not that familiar with it, but it sounds like to me that if we don't have the RED program, then we're going to miss out some opportunities to get some funding, and it may get buried into the other funding program. So I think it's a good idea to keep it separate, and support the resolution that's out there.
Very good. Any other questions before I introduce? I have a motion moved by Don B. Marshall, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of the Municipality of South Dundas respecting the Rural Economic Development Program, RED. Further that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, local MPPs, and the Municipality of South Dundas. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favour? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, Mark. The next one is the City of Welland. Looking for registration and licensing and provincial standards. Any other comments on this one, Mark? They're looking for support?
Not really. There's probably maybe some horror stories with private accommodations, not the same kind of regulating powers as public accommodations and seniors housing, etc. So, and perhaps there might be some concerns with liabilities attached too. But so, City of Welland is looking for support from municipalities in Ontario.
Any thoughts on this one? Whether we want to support or not? I know Mark's got a resolution here prepared. You can go one of two ways: receive for information or support Welland on this. Read them, yeah, what the motion says. I think it was in the package, but supporting the development of the provincial legislation requiring registration, licensing, and setting of provincial standards for private supportive living accommodations. So private, and I'm not sure, there's a couple of nonprofits in the county for supportive housing that they want very much to be licensed and fully supportive. I can think of two here in West Grey that receive some provincial funding flow through from Grey County. The old hotel that was converted, and in that, and then Eckert's building on the corner, right in the main corner. Both of those receive some funding, so they are supportive housing because the rentals have to be at a certain level. So I'm thinking that they would require registration, licensing, and that there would be standards, and I guess inspections. It would benchmark where they absolutely have to be in comparison to what some of the county supportive housing is.
Okay, because the county surely had standards and did some inspection on those?
Did the inspection, and I think where this goes, it's not as much the inspection of developing them and being, that's about where the county stopped. It's the ongoing part of it, I believe, that they want, Welland wants to get.
It just sounds like more provincial government. I won't say the word, baloney, I guess, and interference. I would move that we receive it for information.
Well, it's asking for the province, I guess that's what I interpret it. We will see whether, yeah, they're going to do that. So we'll move by Councillor Lawrence to receive, just for information, or just direction to receive. Okay, Mark. Anybody, any other thoughts on that? Okay. Just to have that one be received. Eastern Wardens Caucus. That the OEB looks at rural Ontario expansion of natural gas. I don't know whether it just needs to be Eastern, something that we should be supporting here, seeing as we put in a few requests for funding for natural gas expansion right here. So, in my opinion. Rob?
It should be all Ontario.
Yes. That we support this part, but also attached that we would support, I guess I got a supporter for that, so we'll pass it on down here. And that we look for support across all of Ontario. Doug?
Yeah, I think the idea is good that they're asking, you know, they talked about a highway where you have one provider on one side of the road and another provider on the other side of the road, and they couldn't offer gas to the customers because they're in it's almost like territorial. So I think the idea is good that if somebody wants to put gas into an area, let them do it without all the red tape and the hassles that they have. So I think the concept is good, but yeah, it does say that we're supporting Eastern Ontario, but if it was all of Ontario, it would be better because we have the same issues that we need to get gas into certain areas, and we're, you know, not getting the support from our local providers to be able to do that. So, and our government.
I do believe that the legislation is under review, and it's supposed to come out the end of June. That was one I heard, and then hopefully we'll hear a little bit more of it at OSUM coming up, the conference coming up later this week. I think you and Rob are attending. I know I'm attending. So we'll see whether there's any update from the province on where they're at with the review of that legislation under the restrictions and requirements. Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, in support of this, when the time comes for us to present this, we will look for their support down the road to do all Western Ontario. So if it's just Eastern at this time, I think we need to show support and bring it forward to this area.
Yes. Okay, I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, second by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of the Township of North Stormont and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus requesting the Ontario Energy Board, OEB, to examine the proposal to expand natural gas services and make it available to all of Eastern Ontario rural areas. And further, that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Ontario Energy Board, the Ministers of Economic Development, Employment and Infrastructure, Energy and Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, local MPPs, Township of North Stormont, and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. There we are. The next one, Mark, you're looking for support one way or the other, support or otherwise, for the Municipal Wind Turbine Working Group in the Township of North Frontenac. Any other from regarding the next round of RFPs from IESO? Carol, you're on the working group.
Yeah, thank you. It's extremely important that we support this. I believe it's tomorrow that the window closes for comments with regard to this. And there's an excellent presentation in here that Warren Howard made that I hope everybody's had time to read. But what's important here for us is after, of course, we were stuck with NextEra, but it's always been said there's no capacity in this area. All of a sudden, the new maps that came out with this call for RFPs, we now have capacity. Gray and Bruce, our area. So you know what that means? That means there's a possibility of more turbines coming in here. And this is a strong resolution, and actually the Dunwich, isn't it, the other one? It's the same thing. It's calling for the changes they want to see made in the process, in that the municipality, it would become a mandatory requirement that the municipality make comments. That one's very important, and that it all be done in open council after the community meeting has happened with the proponent. And also it deals with the Aboriginal consent, I guess, or approval, because some of these ones, they're hundreds of miles away from where the turbines are going, but they're accepting the comments and the support from the Aboriginal people. They don't have to live in the area, which isn't right, just isn't right. So it's really important that we not only support this one, but also the other one from, I never can say that word, Dunwich, yeah. And it's not saying no turbines, it's just wanting to change the process that the municipality has the right to have input, and I think it's 3 of the last ones were issued to unwilling communities, even though they said they wouldn't issue them anymore to unwilling communities, only willing communities. So I sure would encourage you to support both these resolutions.
Okay. I think the resolution is there, unless there's other comments before we introduce. Yes, it's a book. You gonna give me a glass of water? Not quite yet, but I may after we read this one. It is a long resolution. Moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Whereas the independent electrical system operator has requested input on the RFP process used to award renewable energy contracts, and whereas the government indicated that new contracts would be directed to willing host communities, with the Minister of Energy indicating on March 7th that it would be almost impossible for a contract to be granted under the current process without municipal agreement, and whereas 3 of the 5 contracts announced on March 10th did not have the municipal support for the project. And whereas the current process does not meet the government standards for openness and transparency because municipal councils are asked to support power projects based on little or no detail, and further, the recipient municipalities are unable to determine the basis on which individual contracts are awarded. And whereas the province has not demonstrated that renewable energy projects are of sufficient strategic importance in meeting Ontario's electrical generation requirements and/or carbon emission reduction targets to warrant the province taking action to override municipal decisions. Therefore, be it resolved that the municipality of West Grey requests that the municipal support resolution become a mandatory requirement in the IESO process, that the rules be amended to require that the resolution related to this support must be considered in an open council meeting held after the community meeting organized by the proponent. 3, that full details of the project, including citing of the project elements and site consideration reports, are required to be made available at the community meeting and to the council before the resolution is considered. 4, that the terms of any municipal government related to the project also need to be discussed in open council, and that such agreements cannot contain terms that limit the municipality's ability to exercise municipal act powers related to the project. 5, that the process include the requirements for the municipality to provide comments on the project to the IESO. 6, that any points from Aboriginal participation in a given power project be limited to the First Nation who has a comprehensive claim on the land where the project will be built. And 7, that any announcement of the successful bidders include an explanation of the points awarded to each bid. Further, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Energy, the IESO President, Association of the Municipality of Ontario, Leader of the Opposition, local MPPs, the Township of Frontenac, and the multiple municipal wind turbine working group. Any questions or comments? Bev, Councillor Cutting?
Yeah, I would certainly hope that this council would support this. I do think it's a good resolution, but it doesn't really go far enough. Our concerns that we had when we were dealing with NextEra, or whatever their name is today, East Durham Wind, we ended up having to go to court to basically protect the municipality from things like road use agreements and you know, a different amount of things that they just kind of came back and said, well, we have the approval to go ahead. So basically it was a screw you attitude. So I think that municipal approval should be part of the granting of the permit to that they have worked with the municipality, which all goes back to the fact that you're a willing host. I realize that. But even they're not going to stop granting these turbines permits in unwilling hosts, because I can't imagine that they'll get to their targeted amount if they do. So really there should be more stringent rules on when is the municipality's jurisdiction, that they should have to work with the municipality to get those different permits, et cetera, that the municipality is allowed to grant. They should have to work with the municipality, not just decide one meeting, take them to court, because that's how it ends up being. Mm-hmm. So to me, I would like to see something put in that the companies have to work with or receive permission from the municipality before they can go ahead with the project, as opposed to after the fact when it's already a done deal. And I don't quite know how that could be put into the resolution to be very specific as to what we're allowed to give permits for and how all that works, but I think that's an important part of it.
I would suggest, Bev, that be a second, as Marcus said, I think the comments have to be in today or tomorrow. Wondering whether could we send in the comment that, and put it very direct, that the road use, the agreements that are under the municipal jurisdiction shall be in place before the application is accepted, for the simple fact that they have to have shown that they have the leases, and as we've seen, they they go around garnering all the leases on the private property. That has to be done ahead of the application process, but not that agreements with the municipality where it's being proposed. Carol?
That addresses it somewhat, Kevin, but as Bev's saying, ours were in place, but through a court order. Like, it needs to also say something like, yes, be in place, but something about mutual agreement or negotiations with the proponent rather than these court cases that we were taking. I agree with you, it should be a separate comment. I don't think we should mess with the resolution, but
right.
Send in a comment, but something to the fact that the proponents are forced to come to an agreement, negotiate and come to an agreement with the municipalities.
Municipality prior to the granting of the
but something about
contract.
Rather than seeking court orders all the time and costing the municipality money, and therefore the taxpayers who didn't want it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Are we fine with that? Is an aside dealing with the resolution that's on the floor here right now. Any other questions on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Could I suggest that, being that it is a, do you want to do that under direction for staff to enter that comments, or do you want to do it as a resolution? A resolution directing staff to enter
I think that's
instead
stronger,
of trying to
Mr.
put
Mayor.
all the wording,
Yeah.
which we could be here until 5
Yeah,
o'clock
but
debating.
I
So
think a
just give them
resolution
direction.
is stronger than just direction, and the resolution will say give them direction, but,
We can do it as a direct motion.
yeah.
So
at the
if
end
you
of the
could
meeting.
work on, if you want to put that one forward, work on a bit of, wording when we get down to direct motions, okay? All right. The next one then, Kirk Long and Mary Gunn. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping too quickly here now. That was the municipal. This one is on the Dutton Dunwich, very similar to the last one that we just had. Somebody want to go with this one? Last one come from the other side of the table. And as we said, that one's very similar to the last one on the comments going towards the IEOS process. Any comments on the Dutton one before I introduce? I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of the Municipality of Dunwich respecting the Independent Electric Operator System IESO RFP process used to award renewable energy contracts, and further that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Chair of the Board of IESO, the Minister of Energy, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, local MPPs, and the Municipality of Dunwich. Any comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Very good. Now, down to a more local issue. Mark, looking for direction on a something that came out of a survey that we had on the Kirk Long Mary Gunn property at 511 Albert Street. Give us a comment on that. Any further, Mark?
Yes, this matter came about during a earlier planning meeting on April 11th for a zoning and official plan amendment abutting the Kirk Long and Mary Gunn property. Subsequent to that meeting, Mr. Long and Ms. Gunn came in, provided a survey, building survey of their property, indicating that their existing dwelling actually intrudes onto the municipal road allowance known as Albert Street South, approximately 10 feet, 9.84 feet if I recall. At the time I did mention that on occasion this does occur, and the municipality has in the past entered into what's called an encroachment agreement with the property owners that legally recognizes that encroachment, so if they go to sell, it's legally recognized, there's no issue there. Mr. Long and Ms. Gunn kind of intimated that perhaps the dwelling had been situated prior to the road being established. I guess the only way to determine that, certainly a solicitor could do a search and note when the Albert Street South was established. I'm not sure about in terms of when a building permit, if a building permit was established, because the building is, I believe, 100 years plus old. So I'm not sure how that could be established, what came first, but if indeed the Albert Street South was part of the original layout of the town of Durham, then I suspect the road was there before the dwelling. The other issue, of course, is it also became known to Mr. Long and Ms. Gunn that their property is zoned an M2, which is a restricted industrial zone, and it's also designated industrial. And we did check the former Town of Durham official plan and zoning, and they did have a similar industrial zone and similar industrial designation. So what that means is basically the house is deemed a legal non-conforming use. It can remain as is, continue on. However, Mr. Long did note that they had some possible plans to relocate that dwelling further back from the property, which in essence would solve the encroachment agreement. However, as a legal non-conforming use, the intent is for that use to cease through time, and by permitting the building to be relocated on that property, that would certainly create an issue, because under the present zoning and official plan amendment, a residential use isn't permitted, and there's no provision in the bylaw unless through fire or what we would call an act of God that they could not rebuild. And typically, if there was a fire, they would rebuild on the present footprint of the building. So I am looking for some direction from council. It certainly would be an issue. The only way to enable them to relocate the dwelling is to rezone, redesignate that property to residential. And most of that area is either residential or commercial use, so there would be some issues there in terms of compatibility, and there may even be some need to justify the elimination of that industrial zone. So I do look for council's direction.
Councillor Lawrence Carroll, go ahead.
I'm almost 99.9% sure that the houses were built after the road allowances were established. There's maps around that are older than, these houses are old, but they're not that old. I would have to venture that there was probably never a building permit issued way back then, but the road was there. So it should not be, as they're asking, at the cost of the municipality to pay for the encroachment agreement and so on, whatever we do with it.
Yes, I didn't mention that. Yes, when I did mention that it's usually at the cost of the property owner, they did argue because, again, that their thought the dwelling being before the road, that the municipality should pay for that.
Do they have any proof that the building was built before 1850, 1862 or 1852, when was Durham established?
I don't think they had an actual time frame, but they did cite past owners, and they did feel that the house was around 100 years old, but there'd be probably no records, of course, no building permit that would establish that. But as I say, if in fact Albert Street was there, I would be surprised the dwelling would have been there prior to that, unless they had access perhaps off, no, that's only access, right? So they wouldn't be any other.
Well, unless they had the access beforehand off of the Garifrax
Right, that's
road,
a possibility.
Highway 6, but
Probably the road was never, there was maybe a trail or something, but the road allowance was there. Like, I mean, if you go back when the whole town was laid out, that
well, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. That was in
42 it was founded, 72 it was incorporated. Yeah.
So.
But there, it's on the maps, and I can't think the house is quite that old. Maybe 100, but might even be visible or not visible on some of the pictures in the history book.
Okay. Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
I'm not sure what is to be gained by this, other than, like, is it one of those things where we just go with the status quo? Like, what are they, if they don't want to pay for the encroachment, and we don't want to pay for the encroachment, then can we not just leave it the way it is and carry on?
Certainly it can remain as is. If a future individual looked to purchase the property, their lawyer might question that, and they may require that possibly, or that might nix some deals because of that concern. But it's not incumbent upon getting an encroachment agreement done now or in the future, as long as that doesn't become an issue.
But given that this property is actually in an industrial zone, it's residential, the usage will probably change in time, I presume, because it's not going to be residential again, depending on, like you said, like something happens to the house or someone buys it and wants to put a industrial building on that property, right? Then we wouldn't have that issue.
Correct. The intent of the official plan and the zoning is for that property to eventually become an industrial, for industrial uses. So again, the house can remain, it can continue as long as the house is there. Again, the issue of perhaps looking to relocate the dwelling in time, that would not be permitted, and that's what they have questioned. But certainly if that's council's direction to not support, they can apply for a rezoning, a redesignation, of course, and council can, or the West Grey Committee of Adjustment, or sorry, West Grey Planning Advisory Committee can consider their application, and if it's not approved, it can be appealed. So that is an option available to the property owners.
Okay, Doug? Yeah. Any other questions on it? The one thing that is on there is that it already has, when the previous owner, which I believe was Kirk's grandfather, it's Kirk, well, Richard's grandfather owned it first and then his dad, but Kirk's grandfather, Mid, when he passed away, it didn't go to Rick, who was living there, it went to his son. That's why it's registered in Kirk. So, and that may play, it's already been transferred to the next generation, so I don't know what that means to the grand scheme of things either. Council under the feeling that if they want to make the application for an encroachment and or a rezone it, that the ball is really in their court. I'm seeing nodding. That, am I interpreting that right? I'm going to ask Mark be given direction to get back to Ms. Gunn and Mr. Long with that comment from council. Okay? We can give that just as direction, Mark. Very good. Okay. The next one was the bartender wages coming from Committee of the Whole. And we have a recommendation there. Discussed at Committee of the Whole to moving our bartending wages at our facilities to somewhere close to the average. Was thought to go to $15 and that there'd be no administration fee. Right now it is $15 and there is an administration fee. Sorry, I'm using that wrong wording. Yes. It's not an administration fee, but a surcharge was $12 and $3 by the renter, and that the $15, that's where it is. We're saying that the $15, it doesn't change, but it just goes directly to the bartenders, so that the users will not see a change. The municipality will see a slight drop in revenue, is what will end up here. Okay, any other comments on this?
I'd
Carol?
just like to, just for the public, that they're aware, this is to bring them up within the ballpark of surrounding. Hanover is at $18.80 per hour, Mildmay $18 an hour, Walkerton $18 an hour, Cargill $15. So it's bringing them up to the bottom, you might say, of the range, and it's a very responsible job they do for us in being responsible for the bar, the building, the money, closing up. So I think it's in order to grant that. And that $3 per hour was kind of a backdoor surcharge. If we're looking at rates, then we need to look at rates, not try to bring it in that way. And again, this is paid by the renter. It is not paid by the taxpayers.
Municipality.
It's not paid on the levy.
Okay. I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves a wage increase for bartenders from $12 an hour to $15 an hour. Any other comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Anything else, Mark? You've been busy the last 2 weeks between council. Okay. Any questions for Mark? Excuse me. Very good. Then Larry's report. Let me get this, is on page 121. There we are. Thank you. This one, the first one, Larry, is on the surplus bleachers.
That'd be correct, Your Worship. A month or so ago, we brought the issue forward of surplus bleachers from Randy Murray. It was suggested at that time that Tom have a look at them, Mr. Colton from the Normanby have a look at them and ascertain whether or not they would work for his needs. But it's felt by Mr. Colton that those bleachers would not be suitable for use in the Normanby recreation area. So just advising council that we'll proceed with processing and see if we can find someone who is interested. We did have a member of the public that did approach us, but we will go through the surplus process and advertise them.
Disposable. Bev.
I'm just wondering if you could touch base with Steve regarding whether one of them could be used at the dog park. No, I can't. Yeah.
With, after this was presented to the Recreation Committee and talking to Randy when we went out to Normanby Arena, the condition of those bleachers are very, very poor. They're going to take a lot of work, and the gentleman that is interested has a welding shop at the location that they're interested in. Yeah, if you're selling them, I would say as is, and take all the onus and liability away from the municipality, because they are.
We put in benches, I just saw.
Yeah. No, they're pretty poor.
And well used. Carol?
It's very important that it stayed as is because they're in terrible shape. I'm not sure we should even be selling something other than to the person.
You're not driving the price up much here, you guys. You're not enhancing the price much on them.
Well, you go and have a look at them, if you can find them within the grown-up grass.
You won't get a lot for scrap money anyways.
No. They've in their present condition, they've met their end of life, I think. But as a project for somebody that does have a welding shop, they could be brought back together. Yeah. Okay. So do we want just direction on that? You fine with that, Larry? And just taking that as consensus and direction from council to for the arena managers?
It's fine, Your Worship. It was just for council's information to know the process.
Yep. Okay.
That we did follow through with the Normanby event, and they've chosen not to accept that offer. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
Dispose of it. Public Works landfill hours.
Yes, sir. There was a trial period with the Durham landfill in regards to hours, keeping it open from noon until 8 p.m. on Thursdays. Steve Earhart spoke to me last week and asked me to bring this forward. Based on a report from himself and the landfill attendant, there's not much usage after 5 p.m. However, they have got requests to move the hours back to 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I bring it to council for council's consideration and hopefully authorization to change the hours.
So that was done by bylaw, if I'm not mistaken, so we'd be able to put that on the, kind of for information and bring that forward at the next meeting on the 16th. Probably the biggest parties out there are some of our construction companies, especially roofing companies that would like to get in there early on Thursday, to deposit their refuse earlier in the morning so that they can continue on with doing projects within the municipality. So kind of fit into our strategic plan of working with economic development and our employment community. So if there's no dissatisfaction with that, it was a trial period. We'll ask Mark to bring that bylaw change forward at the next meeting. Very good. Okay. Larry, the next one would be the first quarter reports from Durham and Newstead Water.
That's correct. The first quarter reports have been received and were sent out to all the members of council. They will be going on the website as well for the Durham, Newstead Water, and the wastewater treatment plants. All reports came back with good findings. There was a couple of issues that need to be remediated, and they were based on the inspection by the MOEE. So those have been undertaken. And just to remind everyone that routine maintenance is going on, and all of our systems are monitored electronically by SCADA, and they're also monitored daily with site visits by staff. So just for council's information.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. That's it. Any questions? Any other questions for Larry? Mr. Adams? Okay, seeing none. Anything else, Larry?
One verbal update, Your Worship, in regards to the issues over garbage collection and recycling collection. I have a meeting set up tomorrow with Proponent C, and we'll be talking to them and report back to council at their next regular meeting.
Okay. If I could, Larry, there was report on our new piece of, or the piece of equipment that was purchased, the excavator, hi-ho, and the brushing unit that was on it. Any update on being able to operate that? Do we need any specialized staff or anything of that, or will there be something coming forward on that?
There will be a report coming forward, Your Worship, that we believe we may be able to justify the retention of a full-time operator for that piece of apparatus. It's got about 5 hours on it at this point in time. It seems to be working very, very well, and it does require an individual who is well-versed in the operation of that unit in order to make it function properly. So there will be something coming forward in regards to that.
Very good. Okay. Good to hear. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we're down to bylaws, Mark. Still not, a little over time. First bylaw is bylaw number 41, dealing with the setting the estimates and tax rates. So I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 41, 2016, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of estimates of all sums required during the year to strike the tax rates and to provide for penalty and interest in default of payment thereof, for the year 2016, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Just a couple questions to Carrie, I guess, our treasurer. How many years can you go in default before we have to do something with that?
Property is eligible if they're 3 years in default.
Okay. Yeah. And what about part payment then? How does that affect that?
Part payments?
Yes.
We can accept any payments received go against penalty and interest first, then the furthest year back taxes. That's how.
So then does that exclude them from the 3-year clause then?
If they clear off the third year, but if they could be making payments, and if there's still third year taxes outstanding, they can still be initiated on.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. And there is one other thing that may be a correction that you need to make. Under item 8, the very last line, it talks about that interest be added month. The default continues until December 31st, 2015. I think that should be 2016, shouldn't it? Oh, okay.
Good. And then, so the mover and our seconder are okay, as I say, as amended. That to be 2016. Good pickup, Doug. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the bylaw 41? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Bylaw number 42 is the bylaw to go into the fire service protection with Wellington North. Have the motion moved by Don B. Marshall, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 42, 2016, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Township of Wellington North for the provision of fire protection services, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the CEO, Deputy Clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Is there any questions or comments on this bylaw? I know that the fire chiefs and the CEOs and the directors of finance have worked on this one back and forth. It's been vetted many times. Seeing no questions, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Bylaw number 43 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 90 for appointments to citizens and committees. Bylaw number 43, moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that bylaw number 43, 2016, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 90, 2015, being a bylaw to appoint officials and citizens to various committees, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the CEO, Deputy Clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And bylaw 44 is the confirming bylaw. Moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that bylaw number 44, 2016, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 2nd, 2016 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the CEO, Deputy Clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Very good. New business. Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to bring up the issue we're all very aware of Rockwood Terrace and the consultant's report that went to the county and the decision that the county is facing right now. I really want to see this council get a fire lit under them, and perhaps one of the things we can do is pass a resolution here to send a letter to county to let them know our feelings on the possibility of pulling Rockwood Terrace from Durham. I think we have to get active as well with the public. I believe the county councillors and staff have got to hear from the public out there. They can hear from us, but they have to hear from the public as well. And there is a lot going on. There are petitions out there. There is a rally. I think it's 13th and 14th. It's, we may have to surround Rockwood Terrace like we did the hospital twice. But it's going to be absolutely devastating to Durham and to West Grey, and it's going to affect not only the 145 people that work there, but every business in town. And my concern is a hospital, because I'm sure Rockwood Terrace is an anchor for the hospital. If you don't have the hospital, you're not going to have the doctors. It's going to affect the clinic. It's just like dominoes out there. So I really think we have to become, I mean, it's not even been mentioned at this table, and it's been out there for a while. That's what they're considering. So I think, Mr. Mayor, you and John have to take your county hats off in this and, you know, put your West Grey hats on, and you're the ones representing us there, and they may think, you know, they may think you're whining, but you're not whining. You're bringing facts to them. We proved 35 years ago that the need was here, and the need is still here. There has never been empty beds, to my knowledge, other than the 3-day turnover. You have people out there in homes around that are waiting to get in, and my concern is, once the word is out there that they're considering closing Rockwood, you're going to start seeing empty beds because they'll be applying somewhere else other than Rockwood, and then the possibility that they have to move. So I think we have to, as a council, get really involved here somehow and make our voices heard as well as the people, and encourage the people out there to do whatever they can. And Mr. Mayor, I had requested to speak at county just to give them the current councillors, some of the history. Unfortunately, none of them were around when Rockwood was built, and I don't even know about staff. There are not many staff left either. So they need, in this case, to my view, is to look at not just the figures, but at the human factor here. And the effect it's going to have on West Grey and the economy and everything else. So I'm hoping I hear that I have a spot on the agenda for June. Obviously not tomorrow, because I haven't heard anything. But I guess my request is that the council get involved somehow, whatever we can do, and we write some kind of a letter, some kind of concern and plea, I guess, that they consider very strongly, more than just figures, before they make that decision.
Could I suggest that yourself, having the background and sitting on the building committee when Rockwood was built, that you and I sit down? I have had many comments from the public out there, no matter where I've stepped into in the last couple of weeks since that report was presented in April, from the concerns. I've had many emails. What I have said, I will do everything within my power to keep those beds here in West Grey, in Durham, or close to or around, depending on what ability that we have, whether it's a refurbishment of Rockwood or a total rebuild, but keeping it here on the Highway 4 or Highway 6 and County Road 4 corridor, I think is absolutely essential. So if I could ask that you and I sit down, craft up with support of maybe one of the staff, a letter to be presented back to council for endorsement for the next council meeting. I believe, and a resolution, as Mark is saying, that we have that in place, and I've certainly supported any of the public out there in Durham and the surrounding area to maintain this facility. And I certainly share your concern that the county, one thing I can say from the county does not want to see the beds lost out of the county, but I don't believe that they should be lost out of the communities that they're already in at the present moment, or as close to the centers where they are located at the present moment. So we'll see what we can do with that, and I look forward to working with you, drafting up something of that nature, if that would work. Bev, Councillor Cutting.
What is the committee that is discussing this at the county level?
Social services and long-term care. And I would suggest that it's not as much the committee. This one's going to be more right directly on county council. So anybody out there that has access to an email account, email your county council representatives. Everybody's email address is on the county website with your thoughts and opinions on that, because it is going to be a county council decision. I do know that in July, the LINs apparently are the LIN CAO and the chair of the board, but not so certain on the chair of the board, but the CEO is meeting with county staff and the warden on the issue of the beds and what the LIN has proposed as well too for the communities where they are, the county beds. Bev?
I spoke to a staff member on the weekend that works at Rockwood, and she was saying that because the residents are reading about this in the paper, there's been no talk or consultation or anything, and I realize it's at the early stage, but the residents are reading about this in the paper, and they are really scared, in tears, literally frightened because they don't know where they're going or what's happening or what's going on, and they keep asking the staff. The staff said the last 2 or 3 weeks of working at Rockwood has been just horrible. They'll go into people's rooms, people are crying, like they're very, very upset. So this needs to be dealt with, definitely.
I believe that, and at County Council will bring it up tomorrow about being an update. If there was going to be any change, we wouldn't see any building. I mean, you're very much, it's going to be 2.5 to 3 years before any building. It'll be 6 to 8 months. The warden of the day has said that he would like to have a decision on which direction we're going and before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
So there'll be more information, but Rockwood Terrace, as we know it today, will still be there in 2 to 3 years' time. It's not going to be like 2 weeks and you're going to need to be finding a place.
Somebody needs to tell that to the residents, though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they read this, they read that there has to be
Yeah.
a decision by the end of 2016, and they're thinking, oh my God, we're losing our home. Like, where are we going to go? What are we doing? Where's my family going to be? It's very, very upsetting to old people to have that kind of stuff happen, because their ability to adapt and change and do all that, that is their home. And it's very scary for them.
So we'll bring it up tomorrow at County about a communication that County puts out about the facts. Sometimes the media that they're reading, not necessarily all the facts are included in that. Carol?
Well, that brings up a point when Bev was saying it's their home. That's what it's always been said. That is their home. And the county doesn't go into anybody else's home and say, you're going to be moving, we're looking at this. Like, there has to be communication. And actually, I was talking to somebody that sits on the residents' council, like, a relative.
Yep.
And it's not, I don't know how long ago, maybe a year or a year and a half, 2 years ago, that they were presented with 2 options for changes to Rockwood Terrace. Like keeping Rockwood Terrace here, there was no mention of moving it, but making renovations to it. And then all of a sudden, the county just did they got these city consultants in, and I would very much question their figures, Mr. Mayor, if I was sitting on county council. We brought Lee Manor, same construction, same architect, same building, other different layout, same building, concrete, from a C to an A for $85,000 a bed, 8-10 years ago? I cannot believe it's gone up.
2008.
They're saying $185,000 a bed. I cannot buy that it's gone up that much. And it's possible to bring it up. And I don't know where they're getting their figures on the sale price or the value of either of those buildings, but they're out to lunch.
We received the report, and I think at County Council, and it has been in the last 3 years that is, since Lee Manor opened with the refurbishment, that Rockwood would be the next one to be refurbished, and doing some plans and preliminary work on that. I can't tell you how surprised I was when it came out that the suggestion would be to close Rockwood. And that is just, as I said, a suggestion. It's absolutely no basis to say that that's absolutely what's going to happen. It was one of the suggestions, but even the suggestion was a very big surprise to myself from what they've come forward with. They have not looked at the community support. There was no look at the infrastructure, adaptability. There was, and there's none on, are there doctors available? Because Markdale, at this point in time, is short on doctors. Those factors haven't been. It was strictly on efficiency of which one, and there's a lot more that's got to go into a community than some bricks and mortar where it's best to put them on the ground. So, Carol.
Well, that shows up. It's strictly on figures, and I really think there's other aspects than just figures in this case. I mean, Markdale's building a new hospital, but they're only going to have 4 beds overnight, and you're talking about putting 166 elderly people? I don't
100
think
extra
so.
right beside it, yes.
The other thing too is I was building chairman of Grey Gables as well as Rockwood, and when we built that, we built the infrastructure to support 100 residents. There's 66 there now, and it was always the intent to build a 34-bed wing.
Yep.
But the kitchen,
Identical.
the laundry, the common rooms, that was built for 100, not 166.
So that would all have to be renovated.
Sure, there's a lot more costs than just the bedrooms that you're going to do. So I think they need to do a whole lot more talking and investigation, and maybe you need a peer review on that report of that consultant. I don't know where they're coming from, but
As I said, trying to get our head around it, and we'll see where county council go, how some of the discussion goes tomorrow with it. Doug?
Yeah, I think the concerning part in that report was when it did come out, they didn't actually give the option of refurbishing Rockwood. It wasn't one of the options, which I think started the ball rolling, and people were saying, well, what's going to happen? Why aren't they looking at refurbishing Rockwood? I think that should have been in there, but it wasn't. So that made people very nervous, I think, right from the get-go. And I agree. I think it would be devastating for Durham if, or West Grey if we lost because of employment, because of the opportunity to have a place to live close to where you maybe grew up or lived for a lot of years. So I would hope that we can rally, and the community needs to rally to get the word out there that we don't want to lose Rockwood.
Okay. All right. Thank you on that. Any other new business? So we'll look forward and bring a report back at the next meeting, hopefully for endorsement by council. Addendums. Notice of motion or direct motion. Carol, you have one here, or Bev has moved the motion. Any other notice of motions or direct motions? I believe there is. I'll need a 2/3 majority to introduce West Grey's response to the IESO public consultation process. All those in favor of introducing this direct motion? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Any comments, Bev, before we introduce, or?
No, read it first. And then,
Okay.
It's certainly just written. I mean, anybody can add or.
No, I
did
noticed
it in
that.
pencil, so I can.
Yeah, there's been some erasing here and rewording already. I can see that. And thank you for doing that while participating in council as well, too. That's why it was down there. It's multitasking. Sorry, guys, down here. That's the ladies' thing. I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey strongly urges IESO to require the negotiation and agreement between the municipality and wind turbine companies reaching mutual agreement under all municipal jurisdiction approvals prior to the awarding of any new permits for industrial wind turbine projects in order to avoid costly court actions. Did I get it all right there? Okay.
Do you think that's
Yeah.
basically, I know that's basically what we're saying, is that, do we need to add anything, or is that just saying what?
Can I add, not maybe in the motion, but in the minutes, requesting, I don't know, I'm looking at Larry, Carrie, Mark,
Staff to write
senior
it up?
staff,
Yes,
to submit this resolution
yes,
and any background information that may be needed to
right. And it should be
along with it?
CC'd to a number of maybe other municipalities, because I do believe, and CC'd to MOE and a number of other political offices, so that they understand. I know that other municipalities have gone through the same thing with trying to deal after the fact that the permits are permitted. So,
Yeah, Mark's just saying circulation to the same as the other two
yes,
resolutions that we
Yeah.
passed previous on the ISO. Okay. Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Whew. We're getting just about down to the end. Closed session, there is no matters there. Question period. At this time, we'll entertain questions from the audience. Christine, if you can stand and give your, I don't think the name's required.
Hello, Council and citizens and everybody that's listening on TV. I am Christine Robinson. I'm a 10-year resident with my husband of West Grey, and I came here to Council today to ask why Rockwood Terrace was not on the agenda. And I do appreciate that the discussion has started today, but there needs to be a lot more done. We have a lot of citizens who are concerned about Rockwood Terrace leaving and the 100 beds that are potentially leaving our community. Rockwood Terrace is a cultural, economic, and social institution of West Grey. It needs to stay in West Grey. There are reports in the county. If you have trouble navigating the county website, certainly if you call the clerk's department there, they'll be more than helpful. I had to dig through the website there and I just gave up, and I actually got help from the county staff. So it's worth a read. The consultant's report is flawed. It doesn't give all the options, and certainly one of the options that was mentioned here was to renovate and improve Rockwood Terrace for the citizens, and I think that is a discussion that needs to take place. Those citizens that are living in Rockwood Terrace, it is their home. It is disastrous if they need to be uprooted from their home. I don't know if you've ever experienced moving a loved one from a retirement home or a nursing home. It is very devastating to them, and I think this is something that we can avoid. There needs to be leadership from this council, and certainly there is citizens, and certainly they've called me as well on this concern, and my husband and I have a passionate concern for this. Rockwood Terrace beds need to stay in West Grey, and I would implore this council to do everything within their power to keep Rockwood Terrace in West Grey. Now, certainly you know that we have two representatives, that is the mayor and deputy, that sit on county council. I would implore citizens to also ensure the accountability of these two positions, to ensure that people are well informed of the discussions and that citizens are able to make informed decisions and discuss this issue in a very rational manner and keep this important institution in West Grey. And certainly if anybody wants to speak to me, I'm available for discussion, but I will be very much behind this issue to ensure that it is a West Grey institution that is here, not only for the immediate residents, but for future residents. And I'll take any questions if there are any at this time.
Carol?
I don't have a question, Christine, but just the people need to email and talk to more than John and Kevin. It's the 18 people sitting there that'll make the decision. And my concern is a lot of them aren't as aware of what it's going to do to West Grey because they haven't been around that long. So the people out there need to be in touch with all of the county councillors because that's who's, you know, as well as ours.
Thank you, Carol. That's a very good point. Thank you. Any other questions from council?
Just to, this is question period, just to answer the question, why wasn't it on? It was through conversation with Mark and Larry and Carrie. We would be bringing it up under new business today, as it haven't formulated the whole resolution as to what is possible and what we can do, and making the connection with what a lot of groups are. There's a number of individuals out there that have encouraged, as Carol had said, having petitions go forward and having rallies go forward, but I believe it will be an agenda item going forward for us. But that's why to answer your question, why it wasn't specifically noted on the agenda today.
Mr. Eccles, that is unsatisfactory. This is an issue of importance to the citizens of this community and of Grey County at large. It should have been an agenda item. There's a lot of dialogue that needs to take place. The dialogue will continue. The residents of Rockwood Terrace are very important to this community. Those beds are very important to this community. It doesn't just stop at Rockwood Terrace. There's a direct input and direct impact on our healthcare system here and the healthcare facilities that are in this community. So I would urge this council to start speaking about this issue.
Any other questions, Ms. Robinson?
I don't have any further questions. Certainly, this is question period, so I've been able to say what I need to, but I see that Councillor Thompson has his hand forward.
Rob?
I was just going to not ask you a question, but just to inform you, like I was going to earlier, but now the issue's come back up. A couple months back, I went to the AGM for the Health Foundation, brought this forward when it
Great.
first came out in the paper, so hopefully they'll get together and do something, as I said to the foundation, is going to affect the hospital here in Durham also, and surrounding areas. So, and to top that, being on the Chamber of Commerce as a council rep, I've asked the Chamber to draft a letter and send it to County Council also. So it does affect our business community throughout West Grey. So I've already started that process, and I'm hoping the rest of the council, when they go to their committees, will do the same.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Anything further? Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, Council.
Mr. Gutsky?
Good afternoon. Paul Gutsky. Regarding your May 14th Clean Sweep program, can we put some resources towards the east side of the commercial property in Hanover, known as the Shoppers Drug Mart? In the swamp there, the wetlands, it's a dumping zone. And our wetlands are very important to our ecosystem, and we should not be filling them up. Go out there and have a look at what's being dumped in there. Garbage.
Are you suggesting out of the Shoppers parking lot, or?
Have a look yourself, Kevin.
Okay, no, I have.
It's wrong, what's going on there. These wetlands are important.
Can we make sure and determine, that we're looking at our property? Shoppers Drug Mart is not in West Grey. That is in Hanover, so we'll make that address. Thank you for bringing it up. I have had that comments with the Municipality of Hanover, and we'll address it with them as well too. But Shoppers and that parking lot and an extension towards the wetland that you speak of is still in Hanover. The wetland itself, where the water comes off of the Magwood property and the Tool Express, that is in Hanover, but there's a piece in there east of the Shoppers Drug Mart that's in Hanover, so we will make that addressment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. John S., I think you had a comment?
Yes, thank you. I think I can make myself heard here. I would first like to endorse the comments, even though I come from the Markdale area, the comments that were made by Councillor Lawrence at the beginning of this discussion. I think the first reaction from my wife was even stronger than mine when she said it's ridiculous. When she read that headline in the Owen Sound paper that the closing of Rockwood was being anticipated, or something to that effect. Her reaction was it's ridiculous. And I guess, even though an individual room might be a few feet less square feet, it's the care that the individual gets in that room that counts. If it's a little smaller than somebody at an upper level says it should be, then that's not sufficient reason to close it. So I can understand as well that there might be a little bit of hesitation to buy tickets for this fundraising event that's going on Saturday night, but there are some tickets still around. And I guess the other testimony I can give that even though the hospital we do have in Markdale was considered inadequate 10 years ago, we had occasion within our own house to find out that they still can provide excellent health care from the hospital. One other thing, when I read earlier this year the report that what was receiving top priority in West Grey was upgrading the fiber optic and high-speed internet, our new warden at Grey County was saying the same thing at county level, and it hit me how things have changed over the last period of time. And I would like to, at some point when there is time, to maybe review a little bit of history with council if they might be interested. My grandfather, who was also John S. Black, spent 52 years in the employee of Glenelg Township. I only made it to 50 years, but between the two of us, we had over a century of involvement. And if you might be interested in hearing a few minutes worth of the early history and how Glenelg got to where it is, and West Grey and how it's all evolving, I'd be interested. I'd like to have Councillor Bale here as well, because I know that he'd be interested.
Well, at the next, maybe at the next committee of the whole, that might be the best time to hold court with us and bring us up to date on a century or so of information. Appreciate that, John S. Thank you very much.
When I started as treasurer, I didn't even have an adding machine. When I was younger, I used to be add up figures fairly quickly, a lot quicker than I can now, but that balance the tax roll without an adding machine.
I would not want to get into a competition with you even now, sir. And I may just challenge my treasurer, just for entertainment value. If we give you a few rows of numbers, you may be still capable of getting ahead of her. Anyways, good to see you. Any other questions? Absolutely. Go ahead.
It's not really a question. I thought it was going to be brought up earlier, and I just realized it hasn't been, and that's the permission from council to use the chipper to go along that short area of trail. They want to get it open, and they want to get, they have the groups sort of chomping at the bit to get started and do that and bring in the stone dust and level it off. Remember, we spoke about it at Committee of the Whole. It was supposed to be approved here, but it was not, I guess it got missed on what we were doing, so.
Have we seen a plan or any? I think that was part of the conversation. Is my
No, it wasn't
memory.
a plan that we wanted. We knew the strip that was going to be done. We had permission from the Conservation Authority and a number of different groups and we were talking about making it into just a walking trail. All they want to do is just brush back just the brush that's coming over the
Yep.
trail.
Yep.
It's not changing anything. The trail's there. It just needs to be cleaned up and done. So it was really just the permission to use the chipper by the group when they go
Okay.
along and cut and chip it and so that they can't take it off on a Saturday when the groups will help. So that's basically all we needed was permission to do that. And
Doug, comment?
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I have no problem with that. But I do think that we do need to make a plan and lay out the maps and look at trails in general and what our priorities. And that would be, if you're going to start on that one, that would be the first section to maybe look at. I have some information I was just looking over last night from this workshop that I was at about the liability issues associated with trails and how you make sure that it's signed properly and prevent people from accessing, prevent vehicles from accessing if it's not a motorized trail. So there are quite a few things that need to be out there so that we aren't on the hook for an issue down the road. But I'm agreeing. Right from the get-go, I've always said that I would like to see our trails better mapped and so that people coming to our area know where they are and can access them, and even the local people. The majority of your trails are used by your local people rather than tourists, but tourists do like to use them also. So I think it's great. I think it'd be nice to get going on it, but I do think we need to make a plan and look at the maps and section it off and do it not only in the Durham area, but in Newstead and Ayton and all the areas at Allen Park that have these, work with the conservation areas and take it step by step, but do it in a manner so that we're not going to have some issues.
Yep.
And I agree, and I don't think the Trails Committee is still in existence, so maybe that needs to be brought back in because it's not Parks jurisdiction. Parks is asking to do this one little section to open it up and get things started because the Trails Committee has never done anything over the last 10 years. So it's basically just, it's almost lighting a fire under somebody to start doing something with trails. So basically we're asking permission to just get that section done, and hopefully something will come of that and people will continue it on.
I see Brent, Mr. Glasser, is writing over there. I guess one of the biggest things is, I don't know whether we can get the piece of equipment down the trail or not. That's, I guess would look at that.
Well,
I think it could, but...
The ATV club is going to be part of this, so if necessary, the ATVs could get whatever the brush is cut off down to a spot where the chipper could be. It doesn't necessarily have to go all the way down the trail. It can sit in one spot, the brush is brought back and chipped in one location. It does not need to go down the trail.
Brent?
Just quickly thinking, and I talked to Carrie about this is volunteer groups that look after the maintenance of the trails. Just a word of caution to council, I'm wearing my county hat still, sorry. The health and safety aspect of using a municipal-owned apparatus, such as a wood chipper, is just something that probably should be investigated because that can lead to some very serious issues with respect to Ministry of Labor, Health and Safety, and all that kind of thing. If there was one, if I can add, if there was a municipal staff in association operating that apparatus, that's totally different. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, for you don't know this.
Yeah.
Steve Earhart
Okay.
is the one who is the Parks member who is the one that coordinates this kind of thing. So he is the one actually using the piece of equipment. It's just he's asking permission that the groups bring the brush to him.
Okay.
So it is run by that. It's
My apologies, I didn't.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
That was just one thing that.
Yeah, and if you ask those questions, then we'll be able to sort of update, but we all know that, so I'm sorry.
Okay. Rob?
Just going to add that the president of the ATV Club in West Grey is also an employee of West Grey Public Works and works out of the Goodell Yard. And so if there's two members there, they'll look after the equipment. And you're right, they'll drag the brush to a location that you can get a plow or the plow truck and the chipper in.
Yep. Okay. All right. So we'll follow up with, sounds like consensus, approval to follow up with it. Very good. Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Black notices, Mark, we have none. Mr. Hutchison, you have a motion number 20 to adjourn. Thank you very much, Doug. I'll accept that. We stand adjourned until 16th of May.
you.